You're listening to Civic Media. You can tune into any of our live shows on any radio station across the state with the Civic Media app. Find us in your phone's app store and listen anytime, anywhere. This is your WXCO Daily News Roundup for Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 FM and 1230 AM in Wausau.
For WXCO News, I'm Brittany Merlot. U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin is part of a group of legislatures bringing forward the Right to Contraception Act. Here's Lisa Hale with more.
The legislation would create a statutory right to obtain and use contraceptives and would ensure that healthcare providers have a right to provide contraceptives, contraception, and share information with patients. Similar legislation was introduced in July of 2022, June 2023, and June of 2024, blocked each time by the Republicans in the U.S. Senate.
And life-saving research here in Madison into finding cures for cancer and Alzheimer's may be thwarted under a new policy from the Trump administration. The National Institutes of Health provide the most public research funding in the world, and UW-Madison is a big beneficiary. New leaders at the NIH announced they'll be cutting reimbursement rates down to 15% for indirect costs, which are things like facilities, equipment, and administrative needs. According to the State Journal, UW-Madison had a 53% reimbursement rate. Leaders at the university say this will, quote, significantly disrupt vital research activity and delay life-saving discoveries and cures related to cancer, Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, and so much more. Now, UW-Madison isn't the only institution impacted here. These cuts also hurt the efforts of UW-Milwaukee, Marquette, the Medical College of Wisconsin, and Marshfield Clinic Research Institute. Senator Tammy Baldwin says people won't get treatments they need. Workers may get laid off and, quote, will be further away from finding cures to diseases that plague all of our families. She's on the Subcommittee of Labor, Health, and Human Services and writes the bills which fund the National Institutes of Health. She says that bill explicitly bans the NIH from cuts like this. Support for Governor Tony Evers' first statewide Office of Violence Prevention is gaining momentum outside of the state capitol, as some safety experts and advocates hope it'll save lives. Savannah Tomei Olson reports.
Reggie Moore heads community safety at the Medical College of Wisconsin. He formerly led Milwaukee's violence prevention office during a critical period after a 70% increase in homicides in 2015.
The fact that cities are getting smarter on crime and the impact that these types of interventions can have in addressing violence before it happens, I think is something that people understand that we should be doing.
He says using this public health approach to gun violence contributed to Milwaukee's 4-year decline in homicides and non-fatal shootings beginning in 2016, which was one of the biggest drops in crime nationwide at the time.
And a Wisconsin government agency is highlighting the most frequent complaints that it received last year. Here's Jimmy Kuska with more.
The Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection announced its top 10 list of complaint categories for 2024. Topping the list were landlord-tenant issues, followed by telemarketing, home improvement, identity theft, and telecommunications. Rounding out the top 10 were medical services, motor vehicle repair, motor vehicle sales, travel, and motor vehicle accessories. If you'd like to learn more or file a complaint yourself, you can visit the DATCP website at consumerprotection.wi.gov.
And snowmobile trails in Langlade County open up today. This includes the entire trail system. Area snowmobile clubs and the Snowmobile Council work together to make this all happen after a foot of snowfall on Saturday. Remember that ATVs can't use the snowmobile trails until 10 days after. This would be February 22nd, and it must be over 28 degrees. Otherwise, the 550 miles of snowmobile trails are in rough, early season condition. The place for the nation's pastime might look a little different this year. Stuart J. Waddles has more on stadium upgrades.
Food trucks and facial recognition are coming to the ballpark. American Family Field will look a little different for 2025 with several plans revealed. The Alley Food Truck Park will go in on the left field loge level. The Home Plate Team Store will have a new customization corner for personalized jerseys. And sure to be a conversation piece, the introduction of the MLB Go Ahead Entry Program. That's a facial authentication system with express lanes aimed at streamlining entry. Seating will be reduced, with the terrace level having 1,600 fewer seats. That was changed due to the Brewers expanding their office area.
And the Brewers will be wearing a special patch to honor Bob Uecker next season. It's yellow and black plaid with a blue baseball in the center and has his signature on top. The colors were chosen to match some of his favorite clothes, and the crew will wear patches on their sleeves starting February 22nd. That's when their preseason begins against Cincinnati. There will also be a public celebration of life. The Brewers organization will release more details in the spring. And Governor Tony Evers and the Wisconsin Department of Transportation have announced a $100 million investment into rural road infrastructure. The funding through the Agricultural Roads Improvement Program will support 55 projects across the state and target aging local roads that serve as transportation corridors for the state's agricultural industry. The program can offer reimbursement of up to 90% of the total cost for eligible projects. And Wendy's in Weston opens today, located right off of Highway 51 by Walgreens. It's even got a delivery walk-up window and dedicated parking spots for mobile orders and deliveries. This location also offers breakfast, offering eggs and oven-baked Applewood smoked bacon sandwiches or French toast sticks and coffee. A Merrill man was killed yesterday after being hit by a car. It happened on State Road 107 west of Merrill last night just before 9 o'clock. First responders attempted to save him, but the pedestrian, a 30-year-old man from Merrill, died of his injuries. State Road 107 was closed for about 5 hours while the crash was investigated. And 6 Wisconsin Head Start programs still can't access federal payment systems that keep them running. The White House was met with pushback when staff announced they'd be pausing all federal grant and loan payments, which impact all kinds of things from healthcare to law enforcement, and of course, Head Start programs. States and nonprofits filed lawsuits right away, and the Trump administration ended up rescinding the memo. But some Head Start locations across Wisconsin have been locked out of the payment program ever since. 3,000 kids are enrolled in those 6 Head Start locations. And Governor Tony Evers and the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection have announced $1 million in grant funding to support farmer-led groups. The funding through the Producer-Led Watershed Protection Grant Program will be split between 49 groups across the state. The funding is meant to help the awarded groups improve the state's soil health and water quality. And the Wisconsin Department of Revenue is assuring residents that the free IRS direct file system still remains a safe and secure option for this year's tax season. The program allows residents to file their federal income taxes directly with the IRS for free and is also integrated with the Department of Revenue's state tax system. Officials say the system features secure data transmission, identity verification, and is under continuous monitoring by the IRS for security threats. And the spring primary election is 1 week from today, on February 18th. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Statewide, there's a primary for State Superintendent of Public Instruction, with incumbent Jill Underly running against Jeff Wright and Brittany Kinzer. There are also local primaries for municipalities across the state for school boards and local board positions. I'm Brittany Merlot for WXCO.
The Bucks bow to Golden State. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Bucks losing at home to the Golden State Warriors, 125-111. Stephon Curry led Golden State with 38 points, the most he's had all season. Jimmy Butler had 20 and 9 rebounds in his second game for the Warriors since being traded from the Heat. Damian Lillard also had 38 points in the loss.
I thought we didn't execute well enough out of that, the screening, slipping, getting the guys involved that we wanted to get involved. We didn't do it consistent enough, and then, it was still a close game. Loose balls, they got to them. We allowed them to get off threes. They got a lot of shooters, and I thought they separated themselves getting threes off, second opportunities, and then obviously the turnovers. I felt like I had more turnovers than I ever had in a game today. So you're not going to win a game not valuing every possession against a team that's shooting the ball like that.
That's the Bucks' Damian Lillard. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
To no one's surprise, SNL's 50th anniversary episode is shaping up to be a star-studded event. Deadline reports that past cast members appearing will include Adam Sandler, Jane Curtin, Molly Shannon, Will Ferrell, Eddie Murphy, Lorraine Newman, and Kate McKinnon. The show will air Sunday, February 16th on NBC and Peacock. Hollywood was well represented at Sunday night's Big Spanking, also known as the Super Bowl. It's a good thing there were other things to look at aside from the game, which was a blowout from the get-go. The actual game started off with actors John Hamm and Bradley Cooper introducing their favorite teams and getting the crowd riled up. Throughout the course of the day, viewers saw Kevin Costner, Miles Teller, Serena Williams, and of course, Taylor Swift, who got booed. Looks like her 15 minutes are finally... Just kidding. Popular opinion says it was lopsided numbers that favored Eagles fans that were responsible for the boos, or the Trump family.
It is going to be cold today, partly cloudy with a high right around 7 above this afternoon. The wind out of the west at only 5, but that'll keep the wind chill below 0 all day today. Tonight, mostly cloudy, 5 below. Tomorrow, light snow, mostly cloudy with a high of 16. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Outside now, 4 below 0.
That's your WXCO Daily News Roundup from Civic Media. Subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you find your podcasts. Find more news at bullfallsradio.com. The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.